Okay, hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So today we are talking about our use cases application, which are a list of applications that we are uploading. So you can click on anyone and download them and import them inside Five and just get started. Now these are not meant to be standalone applications, but instead they are meant to be more like template applications that you can install inside Five and which will help you give you a jump start into creating those applications. So for example, today we will be talking about or dealing with our task management template, which is located just over here. So if you click on it and then you click on download template. And once you have downloaded it, go ahead and open up Five. If you don't have Five, make sure to install it in your system. Now click on applications and then click on import. And then simply select the task management FBF that you downloaded and click on open. And then Five will start loading up that application and it'll be imported within a few seconds. There you go. Click on task management template and then simply click on manage. Okay, so first thing, let's check out our database. So click on data and then database modeler. And now currently you have these tables in your application. So we have a task category. This is task category and then reminders. Okay, so now let's run our application and see what this app has to offer us. Simply click on run on top over here. Okay, and now you have your application in front of you. So you can see that we have a list of pending tasks in front of us right now. So these are all the tasks that we haven't finished. If you click on my task, we can, from in this menu, we can create more tasks for us just by clicking on add item. If you click on my task details, it opens up a dashboard which says how many tasks are with higher priority, how many are with low, and how with medium. You also have charts and then reports over here. You can see upcoming tasks either you have or some overdue tasks that you haven't completed and their due date has long gone. Or also you can look at your completed task over here. In the categories section, you can see all the category details. Of course, you can give your tasks some particular categories and they will be listed over here from that one. You can create more categories over here. And here you have a list of all the uncategorized tasks. Okay, so a pretty simple application for our task management one. But one thing you might have noticed is that if you go back to our database, you see that we have a reminder table, but we don't have a feature for a reminder yet. So that's why I said these are meant to be template applications. So now what we can do is we can use this reminder table to enhance this application and add a reminder feature. So let's get into that. Okay, so now this feature will be entirely built through some custom code. Now this will be just a very simple JavaScript function, but make sure that you have some knowledge of how JavaScript works in order to do this one. Okay, so what we did right now is we clicked on logic and then we clicked on code editor. So now Five opens up a code editor in your system. Click on add new code and then give it an appropriate name of your choice. I'll just call it send reminder. And then select a language of your choice from JavaScript or TypeScript. Just to keep things simple, I'll select JavaScript and then click on OK. And now I have a boilerplate function right in front of me. Okay, so our reminder table already has some data in it, so you don't have to worry about populating it to start working on this feature. So you can just directly get started over here. So first thing first, the code inside Five actually allows you to execute SQL, and that's really powerful. So let me show you how you can do that. So what you start with is, let's initialize a variable. We can call it SQL statement. And then simply we write our query, which is that we are selecting all of the dates inside the reminders table. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is that through this query, we're gonna get a list of all of the dates from the reminder table. Basically, these are dates for certain tasks that we have set up reminders for. And then we're gonna check these dates and see if they are due or not. And if they are due, we're gonna simply send a notification to alert the user or simply give them a reminder. Okay, so next let's execute this query. So we can do that by typing let query results, which will be a variable where we are going to store the results for a query. Now you can execute query inside Five by typing in Five dot execute. Execute query. here what we're going to do is you want to pass in your SQL statement, and here you want to pass in 0. And then next we are simply going to write a condition where it checks if the results from a query were okay, and we do that through the isOK function inside 5, which simply sends a boolean value whether our response returned an error or not. And now what you're going to do is we're simply going to return 5.create error and send in our query results over here. So what this is going to do is that we are checking if the query results are not okay through the not operator, and if they're not okay, we're simply creating an error. Okay, so next. So the results from our query are actually stored inside query results.values, which is just an array. So we're just going to simply map through them. Just going to call each of them an item. And now we create an object for our current date. So we can just call it let current date is equal to date dot now, and then we're gonna get the date from our query, so that is stored inside item dot reminder date. So let's create a reminder date variable, a new date, and then pass the reminder date inside here. This one is capitalized. Okay. And now we are simply just going to check if our current date is long overdue the reminder date or not. And if it is, we simply tell 5 to show a message. We can just call it that you have a task due. Now I'm going to just keep it at its simple text. But if you want to keep it something more fancy, like you want to pass in the actual value of your task, feel free to do so. And then let's just simply click on save. Okay, so before actually pushing this as a actual feature, let's just first test our code and see if it's actually working or not. So what I'm going to do is first I'm just going to simply log each item. And then here, to see if this portion is working or not, we'll just simply log anything over here. We can just say test log. Okay, let's save it now. And now if you want to test it, what we're going to do is we're going to simply attach it to a dummy process, and we're going to attach it to a event, and just when we so that when we click on run, this function is executed, and if our code is right, we'll just see these two logs. So let's see if we can do that. So in order to create a dummy process, just simply click on tasks and then processes. Here click on add item, name it anything you want. This is just a dummy process. I'll just call it test. And then we click on events, and then I'll simply attach my function to the do run event, and then click on save. Now let's go to visuals and then menus. Here I've already had a bunch of menus for my application, but here we're going to create a new one for our process. I'll call it test again. Give it whatever menu order you want, and then let's select the action as the process that we created. Let's click on save, and then now let's run it as with an inspector. So if you click on run with an inspector, 5 basically opens up in a debug mode, and now you'll get access to a inspector, which is over here. Now let's just click on run, and as you can see, our function works perfectly. That we have a message that says you have a task due, and we are also logging everything. From the log, you can see that every single task is actually behind, and actually every single task is behind our current date, because our current date is 31st August, and they range from 12th, 17th, 11th, 17th, and 11th. So that's why we're getting a reminder for all of them. Okay, so since our function works, now it's time to actually automate it. So go back to 5. Click on tasks. Actually, let's go back to our code and just refine it first by getting rid of those logs. So let's get rid of this. And let's get rid of this as well. Let's click on save. Okay. Okay, so now in order to automate this, so in a way that we don't actually have to press a button to get reminders should be automatic. So what you're going to do is we're simply going to click on task and then jobs and then click on add item. Here, let's select our process, which is called test. And let's now here, basically you can tell 5 that when do you want to schedule it? Do you want to schedule it every hour, every minute, every day, week, month, or year? We can do it every day at, let's say, 9 in the morning, because that's the average working time for everyone. Okay. And then you click on enabled. I'll call it my reminder job. No need to give it some context, and then click on save. Okay, so first let's test our jobs and see if it's working or not. So just for testing purposes, I'm just gonna set it to every minute. Let's click on save. Now you want to go back to your code. Now in order to make jobs run inside 5, or if you want to automate your functions, you have to make a connection to your database. Now this can be a little confusing, so I'm just going to paste a little bit of code over here. All right. So what we're doing over here is that we are getting a database connection, and this is the database ID of our database, which can be found if you click on data and the database. Then we're simply checking if everything was okay or not. Here we create a transaction. Again, we check if everything was okay or not. And now what you want to do is you want to take this transaction and pass it inside this query. And also, in the end, you want to commit your changes. 5.commit and then pass your transaction. Now we are doing this because in order for your function and your jobs to be automated, your code should have access to the database automatically whenever it's running without your permission. So that's why you create a connection to your database. Before actually executing our job, we're gonna make one more change. So in order to do that, run your application. Now what you want to do is you want to click on file and then debug, and then now you get your inspector basically, which is available as a DevTools inside Edge and Chrome. Now what you want to do is you want to type in 5.current user key, which is a function. Now this is your user key. What you're going to do is you're simply going to copy that, go back to 5, and here, instead of message, what we're going to do is we are going to send a notification. Now this is because messages and a pop-up is not exactly an ideal way to get reminded. We shouldn't be disturbed while we're working on an application. So a notification is a better method. So once you type send notification, you need to also tell 5 to who we are sending this notification to, because you can send notification to other users as well if your application is a multi-user. So here we're just going to pass in your key, and then now let's click on save and let's run our application. All right. So we already have a bunch of notifications here. So let's just delete all of them and wait and see if we are going to get notifications in a minute or not. Now I'm just going to simply fast forward this for convenience. So let's see if they're working or not. And now you can see that we get our notifications over here, which all says you have a task due. As said earlier, all of our 5 tasks are actually behind. So that's why we are actually getting all. So you have a task due and you get reminders for all 5 tasks that we saw during our logs. Okay, so that's how we have expanded our template application to add a reminder function or reminder feature. Now, of course, you can download many of the other template applications, or you can expand this into creating your own version of a task management system. You can convert it into a multi-user app as well. You can do so many things. This was just an example. So if you liked today's video and you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe and like. Till then, see you all very soon. Bye-bye.